Okay. All right, so we're going to continue working with sound. As I mentioned, we started doing some sound stuff on Monday. We're going to add some new stuff today. The first couple of slides I should take out of this because now these days, since we're using the P5 editor, the sound library is actually built in. So if I go and look at the index.html, you can see that under the P5 library, they have the sound library there. So we don't actually have to add the sound library. Back when, before the editor existed and we were doing this on files, we had to like download all these files, but we don't have to do that anymore. So instead, we're going to skip ahead to creating some sounds. I'm actually going to go ahead and grab my project from Monday. So I'm going to go to open and go to my keyboard project. Looks like I have two of them for some reason. Weird. Okay, but this is the one I want with the chicken sound. And so we're going to add a couple other sounds, but we'll just add on top of this one. So I'm going to duplicate this. And let's rename this sound. Okay. So on Monday, we looked at freesound.org and we downloaded that chicken sound. I want to look at a couple other tools that you can use. So one website that I like to use for longer sound files is Free Music Archive. This is music that's published for free using different Creative Commons licenses. So it's like some of the other free resources that we've used. Um, so I'm going to go to here. They changed the design of this website a lot. I want to go to genres under Discover. That's one of the things I like about it is it's organized by genre. So if you're looking for a specific type of music, it's pretty easy to find. So I'm gonna get some. Let's see. I wonder what historic is. I don't think I've ever listened to historic music before. So we can listen to. That's pretty fun. I don't know why that's historic, but whatever. All right, I kind of like this first one called Orange Twirls. So I'm going to click on this. And the nice thing about Free Music Archive, it's pretty easy to kind of see all the information that you need to see. So the license is usually very visible, and they'll also have like the Creative Commons license here. So if we click on this, it'll show us the restrictions. This is a CC4, so that means that you have to give it attribution, and I think it also means that you can't do commercial projects with it. Yeah, so it says non-commercial. So this is a little bit more restrictive than other licenses, where it's basically saying you can use this for whatever you want to, as long as you give credit, and you can't do it for commercial projects. So that's fine for something that we're doing for class. If you ever turned one of these projects into something that you wanted to, sell for money, then you wouldn't be able to use this. But for now, that's going to be fine. Um, so just going to get a copy of this link and put it in my comments. So I'm going to say music is orange swirls. And I'll put a link here so I can remember where that is and give attribution. And then there's a download link here. I can just click download, and I'm basically saying that I understand the conditions, and I don't have to have an account here. So that's kind of nice. It just skips one more step that you have to do with free sound. I don't have to sign in or sign up or anything. Um, so I've downloaded this sound, and now I need to upload it here. But actually, let's download a couple more sounds, and then we'll upload them together. Another thing that I really like to use is JFXR. This is a website where you can actually generate new sounds, and it's sort of geared towards video game sounds. You can see all these old sounds that I created before. You can see there's a lot of them. So you can see I've used this before. Oh, sorry, that's kind of loud. I don't know if there's a volume on this. Anyway, you can see there's like a whoa. You can see there's a lot of different parameters on here, and we don't have time to go through all of them right now, but you can kind of play around with them to get different effects. And the other thing that's nice is it has some defaults. Like if you're making a game, you can get like a jump sound, and so you can play around with that. You can try different waveforms. You can try different frequencies. And then you can also use the mutate button, and this will take the sound that you've got, but randomize some parameters. So if I click mutate, I'll hear some different versions of it. So that's kind of cool. And then you can undo the mutation, right? New mutation. And then once you get something you like, you can just click on the export button and it'll download a WAV file for you. And so it's very easy to use. And it actually saves all these files. Like if I refresh this, they'll still be there. It saves them in local storage. And they're just different parameters. So I can also reset the parameters here, although sometimes you can do things that just kind of make the sound stop working. There's also a random button where you can get some different random sounds. That one's kind of cool. So maybe I'll download this one as well and add those into my sketch. So I've got a few sounds here. There's a lot of other resources where you can find sounds that will be good to add into a sketch like this. Another one actually that I don't have linked on here that I use in the game design class is Open Game Art. I should add this link to these notes, but this is another place where you can get music and sound effects and lots of different stuff. That's all Creative Commons license. So that's another good website to use. Anyway, I've got some sounds ready, so let's load them up. So I'm gonna go into my new sketch and go to the file section. So I have this chicken.wave. That's a file I added on Monday. And just to review, to upload a sound, I just go to this little drop down and upload file. And then I can drag files directly on here, or I can click I can click on here and excuse me. Uh, I just have to go to my downloads folder. That's where all these files downloaded, and then I can actually grab all of them at the same time and click open. And so those will upload. One of the files is too big. That's probably the song that I downloaded. I guess there's a limit to how, let's see, let's go to download. So there's a limit to how long the sound can be. So I could either just choose a new sound or I could edit this. Let's just edit this in Audacity real quick in case you guys need to edit something. I recommend using Audacity. Audacity is a free audio editing program. If you take an MMP 100, there's a good chance you've already used it. Let's skip this. But it's really easy just to do a quick edit. So I opened Audacity, and all I want to do is make this song shorter so I can upload it. So I'm gonna just drag it onto the Audacity section. It's actually not a particularly long song, but let's see, it is kind of a large file. Maybe if I'm noticing here it's a 32-bit float, so I might just be able to get it smaller just by exporting and changing the parameters. Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna do an MP3, and I guess I'll just see for the bit rate. Okay, I'll just save this. Okay. I don't know where it's saved to. Where did it go? Export, export. Where is it? It's just it's in a folder for a different project. Okay, let's just go to my downloads folder where I already am. I don't know what this weird drop down is. How do I find?
Professor, we can't see. We can't see you. what you're doing right now. It's still on the P5.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for pointing that out. Let me share my whole screen so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay. Um, so I'll just close out of everything. So one of the files I downloaded here is too long. It's a little bit over 5 MB. And so if I want to do a quick edit, the easiest way to do that is to use the Audacity program. And so to do that, I'm just going to go to Windows and open Audacity. This is a free audio editor. As I mentioned, I assume that most of you guys have seen this because you probably did it in MMP 100. So once I open Audacity, I'm just going to drag the file directly onto the interface. And I can kind of play around with different things. I mainly just want to get the file size down. So I'm just going to make a cut somewhere. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I'm just going to select the end of the file after about a minute and just hit backspace to delete it. I got a little bit of the end here. And then I don't want to have like a hard cut here. So I'm just going to select the end of this bit and go to Effect and do a fade out. So then I can listen to this. Okay, and that was a pretty good place to end. I don't know, I guess you guys probably can't hear the audio anymore if I'm streaming full
Yeah, I was
screen.
about to say that we can't hear from Audacity.
Yeah, so I'll switch back to the browser in just a second. Um, but yeah, so once I get the edit that I want, I'm just gonna go to export, and export is MP3. Uh, and I'm gonna see if I can find my downloads. I don't know what the deal. This version of Audacity is doing some weird stuff. Let's try going back. Can I go back? Okay, here we go. Downloads. I'm gonna just call this orange twirls.mp3 and click save. Okay. It's gonna do an export. And now hopefully, now the song is only 2 MB. So it probably did a little bit more compression on the file as well. So now it's much smaller and I can upload it to P5. So I don't need to save the Audacity file because I'm not going to make any more edits to this. And so now I have a smaller file. So let me switch back to the browser. Where is it? Okay. Okay. So now I can upload that file. So I'm gonna click on the drop down, go to upload file, and get this new orange twirls that's less than 2 MB. And okay, now we're good to go. I have my files and I can add them into my sketch. So the files I added are this jump sound, this random sound, and this music, orange twirls. I'm gonna edit my jump 12 and random 16 because they have spaces in them. I don't want them to be spaces because it's gonna make it harder to grab those. Although I don't know if it's as big of an issue as it used to be. So I'm just going to replace the spaces in those file names with underscores. Generally, when we're making files for a website project, we want to avoid using spaces. So I'm going to put underscores there instead. I don't know if it'll make a difference, to be honest, but it used to be an issue. I think it might not be an issue anymore, but that's what I usually do anyway. So let's add some variables for our other sounds. So I have orange twirls, I have a jump sound, and I have a random sound. And when I'm declaring a bunch of variables for these sounds, I can just put commas in between them instead of having to go to a new line each time to say something like that. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it saves you a little bit of space. You can just put variables after commas, and it'll just declare all of these variables separately. So once I declare the values, I just put them into preload. So for orange twirls, I just say load sound. And I have to make sure I get this right. So I'm going to open up this sidebar for a second. So the URL has to be exactly the same. So this is capital orange lowercase twirls dot mp3. And then jump sound is load sound, capital jump 12.wave. You can also change the file names. As long as they match, you can use whatever you want. And then random sound is load sound, random underscore 16.wave. Okay, so I've got all my sounds. I should be able to play them now. And so last time I just had this chicken sound that plays when I press the space bar, but I've got a bunch of other keys that do different things. So we could try adding some more keys in here. So let's double check and see. I guess I did that with, okay, so yeah, we're gonna do this next. Okay. So actually for my space bar, I'm gonna replace the chicken sound here. I'm gonna play my background music because I want to show a few things that are gonna be easier to see with the background music. So now when I hit space, I'm gonna start playing orange twirls. So I'm gonna say orange twirls dot play. And there's a couple things that I want to show you guys that we can do with this sound. So let's just see that that works first. Okay. So that's pretty cool. So one thing that we can do is instead of just playing the music, we can actually play or stop or pause the music. So we looked at how to play music last time. We can just use the sound file and say .play, but we may want to stop the music as well. And there's a couple different ways to do that. So I'm going to go over those now. So inside of my if statement, I'm going to put another little nested if statement. So before I play the song, I'm actually going to check to see if the song is playing. So if the key code is space, I want to play this orange twirls song. So I'm going to say if orange twirls dot is playing. So we did talk about that, I think. Yeah, we did with the chicken sound. So if orange twirls dot is playing here, then we don't want to play, right? If it's already playing, then we want to pause it. So I can say orange twirls dot, I'm going to say pause. Okay, so then if it's not playing, we want to play it. So I'm going to put the else here and then put the orange twirls and then put the bracket at the other side. So now I'll be able to turn it on and off by hitting the space bar. And one thing you may notice is when I hit the space bar again, it starts from where it stopped previously. So that is what pause does. If I wanted to start over at the beginning after I hit it, I can do stop. So you can hear it's starting over at the beginning. So depending on what you want to do with your project, it may make sense to stop the sound completely and start it over, or it may make sense to pause the sound. So I'm going to leave the stop here, but I'm going to turn the pause back on. And so now I can play and pause this background sound. Okay. So that's kind of cool. So since that song is a little bit louder, longer, we can look at some of the properties that we can look at with sound as we're playing that song. So I'm going to manipulate a couple things that are going on with the sounds.
Professor?
Yeah.
Like you paused and stopped, can you just mute it? So once you play it again, um, it will continue from
Hmm.
not from where you stopped. It would be just muted.
Yeah, you can well you can set the volume. So that's one of the things we're actually going to look at in a second. But if we go to the reference, let's see, where is sound P5 sound file. Okay, so one of the things that we can do is set the volume. And so if you wanted to mute, you could set the volume to 0 and then set it back to 1. So yeah, you could do something like orange twirls, although you would want to, so if it's playing, you could say orange twirls dot set volume 0. But then you need to set the volume back. So actually, we'd have to look at what the volume is. I don't know if there is a get volume. Let's see. I'm not sure how we get the volume.
Won't it just be 1 instead of 0? The set
Yeah.
volume.
Oh, you know what we could do? We could make another variable. The problem is that once we set the volume to 0, it's still playing. So then we need to know how to set it back to 1. So this is kind of like a different thing. You could have just like you could have a different system for this besides the is playing or is not playing. So you could have like variable is mute equals, or let's say variable orange volume equals 1. And then instead of, we could say if orange volume equals 1, orange twirls dot set volume 0 and orange volume equals 0. Or then I guess we could just do set orange volume. Because the thing is, then we have to know the other way around. So else we do the same thing. So we say orange volume equals 1. And then actually we can just do this afterwards. I'm going to actually, let's just put this whole thing in a different key so that we're not, so we can undo this later. So let's say mute, and let's use the M key, and let's go to keycode.info to figure out what that is. 77. Okay, so we say if the orange volume is 1, orange volume equals 0, else equals 1. So that'll flip it back and forth. And then we just set the volume to whatever it is. So then I can get rid of this, and we'll ignore that for now. And let's delete this bit. And let's see if that works. Okay, I have to hit space. Yeah, so I could do it that way. So yeah, we need something to kind of flip the volume on and off. So we can add another key command in for that. So I'll bring back the pause here. Okay, so that was a little bit of a tangent, but that's interesting. So so we can play and pause and stop, but then we can also adjust things like the volume, which we just did, and the pan and other aspects of the sound that we're playing. So let's look at some of the other things that we can change. So besides setting the volume on and off, we can also map the volume. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to map the volume to the mouse position on the canvas. And so you could use a slider for this. Actually, it might make more sense to use a slider since we just learned about sliders. But let's do the map position for now. So I'm going to put this in the draw function because it's going to be updating regularly. I'll put it before all this other stuff. So I'm going to say change orange twirl volume So we'll set the volume. I'll just say variable vol, VOL, is map, and we're going to map the mouse Y value, and I'll map it from 0 to height. So at the top of the canvas, it'll be loudest, and at the bottom of the canvas, it'll be quietest. So from 0, we want that to be 1. That's the highest volume. And then at the bottom of the canvas height, we want it to be 0. That's the lowest volume. So then I'll just say orange twirl dot set volume and vol. And so this will be separate from the mute part, which if I wanted to do this right, I could say that the mute, well, what would I have to do? I'd have to actually set, I mean, I could just set orange volume here, but then I'd have to check. Okay, let's set orange volume to this map. But then instead of asking if it's 1, I'll just say, is it greater than 0? So I can still map that way. But then the problem is then I'm going to set it back to 1. Anyway, this is getting too complicated for this one tangent, but let's just listen to the volume now. Uh-oh, doesn't like this. Orange twirl is not defined. Oh, it's orange twirls with an S. Okay, so now, uh-oh. Ball is not defined. Whoops. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so now if I play the song, you should hear the volume go up and down as I move the mouse. So as the mouse gets to the bottom of the canvas, the sound goes down. And I can fade the volume. So let's visualize that just so we can see it. So I'm just going to draw a line where the mouse is. So I'm going to say line from 0 to width. And then for the Y value, it'll be orange. Oh, we're going to have to map. Or no, we'll just put mouse Y because it is mouse Y. Whoops. So sorry. For a line, 0x mouse Y to width and same mouse Y. And so now we should see, oh, I guess I need a stroke here. There we go. So that's kind of cool. So we can fade the volume in and out by using set volume. So that's one way that we can change the sound. We can also pan. So this will make the sound go back and forth between the left and right speaker. So it'll be hard to hear this if you're not using headphones, but you should be able to hear a little bit of a difference. So for this one, I'm going to make a new pan variable. And for this one, I'm going to map the X position. So from 0 to width. And for pan, 0 is the default for pan. So 0 is directly in the middle. -1 is all the way in the left speaker, and 1 is all the way in the right speaker. So by mapping 0 to width to -1 to 1, then when my mouse is in the middle, that will be in the middle of the stereo between the two speakers. And then, -1 is left, 1 is right. So then I can say orange twirls dot set pan, I think is what it is. Let's double check. Oh no, it's just pan. Okay, that's funny. Pan, and then the pan value, whatever that is. And let's draw a line for this as well. So we'll say line. This one will go from mouse X and 0Y to mouse X and height. So this will go in the other direction. So I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I can hear it going from the left side of the headphones.
I feel it pretty well.
To the right side. So that's another thing that we can change that's kind of fun. I'm gonna do one more. There are more things that we can do. So if we look at the reference, I had this open before. There's a whole section for P5 sound in the reference. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, P5 sound. So this, you can see there's a ton of stuff in here that you can do with sound. So obviously we're not going to cover everything today, but there's a lot of really interesting stuff that you can do if you're interested in exploring more things with sound. There's effects, there's synthesis, there's like lots of cool stuff that you can do. So the next thing we're going to do is kind of fun. We're going to change the rate. So the rate is how fast the music is playing, and so we can get some kind of funny effects with this. So I'm going to say variable R for rate, and let's map. Should we map for this one? I guess we can. I don't want to tie it to. Maybe we'll make a slider for this one since we already learned sliders. So this will be a little bit different from the notes, but we can make a slider for this. So I'll say variable rate slider, and then in setup, I'll make my slider. I'll say rate slider equals create slider. And with this one, we want to be careful because if you set the rate to 0, then the sound basically doesn't play and you'll get a big error. So let's say 0. Well, actually, the first value is the minimum value. So let's say 0.1. And then the max value, let's do 10. And then the default value is 1. That's just the regular rate. And then we're going to use a smaller value. So if I add a fourth argument to a slider, the fourth argument that you add is how far it moves in between. It's called the step. It's the step from one value to another. So let's do 0.1 for this so we get a little bit more fine-grained. And 10 is actually probably too much. Let's just start with like 4. So we've got this rate slider, and now we're just going to apply the rate. So I'm going to say orange twirls dot, how do we do this? Dot rate. It's just rate. So it's weird that there's set volume and then there's pan and rate, but whatever. So we're going to do rate, and I'm going to say rate slider dot value. We're just going to plug the value directly in there. Okay, so now I'm going to play this. One trick that I'm going to run into is if I move my mouse down here, the volume is going to go all the way down. So what I'll do for now is just set the lowest volume to be like 0.25, so it won't go to 0. Okay, so let's start the music. And then when I move the slider, we'll hear the rate of playback change. So that's kind of fun. You can see how, that can be useful if you are, doing some, mixing or DJing or something like that. Changing the rate of playback can be a fun effect with some sound. So yeah, there's a few different things that we can change with our sounds. That's all of them stuck together. So the other sounds we didn't play yet. Let's see, what we have these different keys that do different things. I kind of forget exactly what they all do. Also don't really know what's going on there. That's kind of cool, but I don't know what's happening. So let's just add in those other sounds and then we can be done. So I have a jump sound, a random sound, and a chicken sound. And down here I have like, let's see, where's my chicken sound? Oh, yeah, down here. If chicken sound is playing, then we see that chicken. So let's make sure we play the chicken sound, and then I'll also play the other sounds and add some simple visualizations for those. So the keys that we've already got mapped up are A, B, C, and D. So let's just go with those keys. So I'm going to put these in my key press function. So when you're using sound, you want to make sure to put them in key pressed event and not like draw, because if they're in draw, you're going to be triggering the sound over and over again. And actually, that reminds me of one more thing that we should go over with sound. So we'll do that in a second. So let's do our other sound. So if key code equals 65 for A, we'll play our chicken sound. So we'll say chicken sound.play. And if key code equals 66 for C, we'll do our jump sound. And if key code equals 67 for B, or wait, I did those backwards. A, B, C. Okay. Jump sound and then random sound dot play. Okay. So let's add some stuff in here. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom in draw and do similar things. So I already have a chicken sound is playing set up. So actually let's take a look at that. So if I hit A, there's my chicken and my chicken sound. So those are my sounds. Let's add some more visuals. So if I say if jump sound is playing, for our jump sound, what should we do? Let's just draw a big circle. That'll be easy. So I'll say fill is blue, and we'll just draw a big circle in the middle. So we'll say 200, 200, and 400. So it's a short sound, so okay, so that looks good. So we can add visuals just checking if it's playing. I can say if random sound dot is playing. Let's add some random stuff in here. So I'll say fill random 255, random 255, random 255, and then I'll do a circle. Same thing, random width. I'm just doing this just to kind of fill in stuff without having to go through a whole process, and we'll do random 200. Okay, so now if my random sound plays, we'll see a bunch of random circles. So that's pretty cool. So I'm just kind of drawing random stuff, but you can see how if you wanted to make something really cool with sound, you could actually draw things that are related to the sounds that you're playing. You could make a really interesting sound sampler. So the one thing that I want to go over before we wrap up is the sound mode. So I'm going to use the random sound to demonstrate this. If I hit the C key, you can hear the random sound play. And if I hit it a bunch of times in a row, you'll hear it play on top of itself. So that may be what you want to be able to layer it. But if you want it to restart, you can change the sound mode. So let's go over here and look at how to do that. So it's under p5.sound file, and it's play mode, not sound mode. So the play mode, so there's either restart or sustain. So sustain is the default. That means it plays multiple copies over itself. Restart means that the sound will start over from the beginning if I hit the key again. So if I go up to setup and I say random sound dot play mode and say restart here, now you'll hear it restart from the beginning. So depending on what kind of project you're making, you may want the restart, you may want the sustain. Sustain is the default, so if you just want sustain, you don't have to change anything. If you do want it to restart, like it does here, then you have to use the play mode and set it to restart. If for some reason you want to toggle back and forth between the two, I can just, go back to random sound and say dot play mode and say sustain, and that will set it back to sustain. So it really depends on the sound and the project and what kind of effect you're trying to get, but either one of these modes could be useful in different contexts. All right, I think that's enough to cover with our sounds. I'm going to save this and I'll put this sketch into the voice chat and I'll stop recording.